We must all remain committed to slow the spread of coronavirus, taking care of ourselves and not putting others in harm's way, especially those already at high risk of getting seriously ill, including people over 65 or those with underlying medical conditions. If you must be out, avoid crowded areas, stay 6 feet or 2 arm lengths away from others, and wear a face covering. Wash hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds, especially after being in public spaces. Avoid touching your face, cough or sneeze in a tissue, then throw it away. Disinfect frequently touched objects. And if you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. Slowing coronavirus means taking care of ourselves while also protecting others. Even if you're not at high risk, these steps should be taken to help slow the spread of coronavirus. We are all in this together.
Women are not an homogenous group.
We face discrimination differently depending on factors such as ethnicity, age, socioeconomic status, and more.
Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to amplify women's voices.
They are the experts of their own lives, initiating conversations within their community about challenges they face, the solutions they're working on, and the opportunities they see.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 for Women's Voices on Air. We know our challenges. We are the experts of our lives.
We are master multitaskers, prioritizing our family, friends, and our faith above our own needs.
Our needs and voices are too often overlooked.
Please join us this Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. for Women's Voices on Air.
We tell our stories in our own way.
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hey, Seattle, here are some storage tips to love food, stop waste. Onions make potatoes sprout faster. Keep onions away from potatoes. Ripe bananas give off a gas that makes the fruit around them ripen faster. Store bananas away from other fruits. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan, Cotto touching bases with you right on Rainier Avenue, our community radio station, your community radio station, RainierAvenueRadio.world. And today, a special treat, another guest from the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, one of the incredibly talented staff that works there, and a young man who, still a young man, who has had so much influence on so many of us as coaches and so many kids in our community. Justin Kesterson. Justin, welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.
I appreciate it, Juan. Thanks for having us back and having me back.
It's always great to see you. And Mick Hoffman, who is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. He is got a real busy month here with the state playoffs going on and so many activities. And the beautiful thing that I love about Mick, Jason, is that he doesn't care if it's all the way at the 1B level, all the way up to the 4A. He really does do a good job of getting across the state and going seeing everybody.
Yeah. Mick is he's been on the whirlwind tour as we start and get through the fall championship season here, and so he was over in Yakima this past weekend for state volleyball for 3A, 4A, and the previous week was out at the state volleyball and swim and dive, and so he's been over across country, and we're getting ready to wrap it all up with football next week, so it's exciting.
Tell us about your role at the WIAA. Give us a refresher on what you do. If you don't remember, Justin was here with us last year, and he's going to share with us a little bit about what goes on in his world.
Yeah, so I oversee the sports of cross-country, wrestling, track, and field within the association. I also am back up on a couple of other sports, including football, so it's one of the reasons why I'll be pretty hands-on with next week's state championships. And then I oversee our medical advisory committee that oversees any medical decisions and stuff that the association might make. Involved in our DEI committee, our gender identity committee, and a couple other works that we do. Also one of our officials liaison. So I work with the Officials Association pretty closely on matters.
Such an important part of our athletics, and we take it for granted. And right now, the last 5 years, not only do we take it for granted, but we certainly have been putting out the call for officials. And it's such an important part of the athletics that our children participate in. Tell us about the WOA and tell us about some of the things that they're doing right now to attract officials, to make sure that we have quality people officiating our games.
Yeah, the Washington Officials Association actually housed in our building in Renton with us as well.
Is that Todd Stordahl still?
Yep, still Todd. Todd's still clicking along, and they just have a staff of 2 in our office. And so most of Todd's makeup is really the assigners that are out across the state that are assigning the officials on a day-to-day basis across all of those sports. And they've been working hard to try to recruit and retain officials. And right now, our average official's age is 55 across the state. And so it's come down slightly, but still a relatively high number when you talk in terms of the number of officials that you really need to put on high school athletics in the state. But they are doing an awesome job and have an incredible program that they're piloting across a couple of school districts in the state, where they are actually trying to bring in high school kids and introduce them into officiating through a CTE curriculum. And so it teaches them in the classroom where they can get high school credits on how to be an official for specific sports, and they go walk them through weekly progress with those kids. And then what Todd and them do is they integrate them into officiating middle school sports. So it bolsters the middle school level. It frees up some of those veteran officials from having to cover middle school and work more high school games. So the idea is to get them in there early. If they can keep them engaged for 3 years as they start to transition out of high school and into college and keep them involved, then they've got them kind of hooked in for life as to what the data shows. So a couple of new things that they're working there. And again, they continue to push, right, to try to attract more officials. We've worked with their pay to get them paid quicker, up their pay, and things like that to really bring them back in. So they are now on par with surrounding states that they were losing officials to in the previous years. So.
But and we both know this is true, and I've spoken to so many of our officials. Certainly the extra pay helps, but these are guys that really, and gals, who want to give back to the community, and they see this as a way of contributing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you talk to most of these officials, and just like at the professional level, a lot of those guys and gals have full-time day jobs. And then they do this on the side on the weekends or in the weeknight, or they take the season off from their day jobs and they're out officiating and stuff. So same thing with our officials. There's a lot of them that have their day jobs. And we do have some people that are retired, right, that are still involved in it and continue to go. But a lot of those folks do have those day jobs, and they're just committed out there because they know without them, we can't have those sports and we can't play. And so that's the thing that keeps them coming back and is part of the calling.
Hey, Justin, because you and I are friends and we've known each other so long, I'm going to ask you a question. My O-Day brethren, my O-Day alumni, and they were wondering, and I wanted to put this right at the top of the show, so if they see it, they can go ahead and hear that I went ahead and follow through on it. And as many of the viewers know, I'm an O-Day alum with a son who is currently playing on the football team right now. Justin, the Apple Cup, and just until Sunday, we found out this won't be the last Apple Cup, thank goodness. Washington State and the University of Washington, no matter what conferences they're going to be in and wherever Washington State ends up, and especially in this litigious situation that's going on, the Huskies and the Cougars will be playing the Apple Cup. So that was good until 2028, and I'm sure that there will probably be a renew on that contract at some point in the next 4 or 5 years. But the bottom line is was that the long-standing, a game that needs to be played and a game that should be played for our state. This Saturday, many of us thought it was going to be the last Apple Cup for a while. It's going to be played, I believe, at 1 o'clock. The O'Day Fighting Irish and the Bellevue Wolverines. And you know exactly where I'm going with this. They are playing, Justin, at?
They will be down in Art Creighton, the Bethel School District.
They are playing
at 1 o'clock.
2 o'clock at Memorial Stadium. And many people are wondering, how can two powerhouse football programs in the state of Washington be playing at the same time in the Apple Cup?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, so that all goes back to just the way the brackets lay out, right? And we have to focus on high school athletics and what we do and plan out that scheduling. And sometimes the default for all the playoff games is Saturday at 1:00 when we get to the state semifinals. Our office tries to accommodate as much as possible to travel with teams in looking at when teams are kind of coming together. And excuse me, I had the location incorrect. That's East Lake and Graham Kapowson and Eastside Catholic and Yelmer down at Art Crate. So I apologize, but that game. We've actually had a few people that have called into the office this week asking us to change those game times. Maybe a lot of O'Day alums. I don't know, but there's been a number, right? But no, those things are preset, right? We have that default language in our postseason SOPs. That's that default time, and so it is possible for schools to or sites to kind of deviate from that when there's multiple games that are going on there. But that default time for a one game is at 1:00 on Saturday.
Well, we are suggesting that if you were looking for tickets to that game and couldn't find any on the open market or the other markets, there probably will be a Bellevue O'Day market, so you could probably find tickets to that game. And I certainly had to give up 3 tickets because I'm definitely going to be there supporting the Fighting Irish, and I know a number of our alumni brethren will be there too. Today's show, we are going to be focusing on the importance of sportsmanship and ethics in high school athletics. And sportsmanship, obviously, it's more than a cornerstone. It really is the hopefully for all of our kids to see us as adults in particular. And in my years of coaching, I wanted to make sure that they saw someone who was going to do things as fair and as ethical as I could and follow the rules of the district and also of the school and also of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I think if kids see you or kids feel that you are cutting steps, that those steps can be replicated throughout the rest of their lives, and you want to let them know that there are no shortcuts, and obviously that's a big part of this. In regards to the ethical conversation, in regards to the sportsmanship conversation, give your best effort on Friday night, certainly in my case, but in other cases, whenever you go out there and compete, you give your best effort. And then at the end of the game, you go smile, you shake hands with your competitor and say thanks for the competition. And then you go back to work and make yourself better. How is the concept of sportsmanship defined and emphasized in high school athletics in Washington State?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think it's changed really over the last couple of years. And we've kind of stepped away from the terminology of sportsmanship and have just gone to behavior. And the behavior of fans, the behavior of coaches, the behavior of the student athletes, and what that looks like. And one of the things that's in our mission statement is that, all students have the opportunity to participate in athletics and activities in fair, equitable balances, and includes the sportsmanship piece and teamwork and just how all that kind of comes together. And so one of the things that we always talk about is good sportsmanship, good behavior at our events. And that just looks just like what you described, right? Is the kids are coming out there and it's about them. It's not about mom and dad or the other people that are in the stands. It's about those kids that are out there competing and giving it their all. And having the respect of their opponents and their teammates and being able to go and shake hands at the end of a contest or be able to get together and have conversations without the overflow of the emotions that kind of play into it. And I think what's really happened, and I know we're going to get into it a little bit, but is since COVID, that's really changed. And that's changed from a societal side of things, but also we see that down here at our level. And so for us, that focus continues to come back to remind kids, remind coaches and parents what interscholastic athletics and activities is all about, is learning how to succeed and learning how to fail in a healthy way, to drive that forward and to send those kids out into college or whatever their next steps are in life, to be good models within the community that they're in.
Mick and I have touched bases on this so many times. Excuse me. Lost that. Sorry, Daniel. But that's the beautiful part of being involved in community public radio. You see talented broadcasters like myself make situations like that occur. So sorry. Back to my point. Mick and I have discussed this so many different times, Justin, in regards to the parental expectations of athletics and high school athletics in particular. It just seems now, certainly more than my day, the next logical step to playing high school athletics is getting a college scholarship. We all know, who have been involved in athletics, that for the most part, a college scholarship of 4 years is usually a generational thing. There are some schools in our area that get maybe 3 or 4 kids get the full ride. Others get partials and so forth. But it's of all the athletes competing, we understand that it's such a small percentage. Is it television? Is it the media? Is it just human nature that parents believe that my son or daughter was a competitive high school athlete and they're going to be recruited to play Division I sports?
Yeah, I think it's all of that that factors into that. And, we try to coexist with the club scene right around the country. And year in and year out, we see that at those high levels of AAU basketball, of 7-on-7 flag football, and all those things where those kids are being promised, hey, you come here and work out, or you come here and go to school, we're going to get you to that next level. And then that club participation, and folks and parents are dealing out thousands and thousands of dollars on the training. And a lot of times it's great, right? But it's not a guarantee that kid is going to go on to that next level. And so there's this ideal, an idea that kids are going to go, and they get told at a very young age that their kid is tremendous. I've got an 8-year-old son right now, right? And I've already been asked to put him on select soccer teams and select baseball team. I'm like, he's 8. He doesn't know what he wants to do yet. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 8. And so we get into this specialized realm of what that looks like. And so that has played a part in it. And, like when we have our WIAA 101, and one of the things that we talk about is resetting goals, right? And 1.3% of high school athletes actually go on and get a college scholarship. So it's such a small percentage that we really got to step back and reset those goals and reevaluate what those expectations are at the high school level for the majority of our students. I mean, we service over 200,000 student athletes. So you take that 1.3%, it's a very small fraction of kids that are actually going to go on to college. And so that is something that we have to continue to reset.
How do we separate? Because some of the select programs, and I think that the WIAA has done a tremendous job of coexisting with the select programs, and the select programs aren't going anywhere. But the investment that's being made by parents, I understand it, and certainly having a son who participates in a select program, and seeing the commitment of the parents, and seeing the not only investment of their income, but also the investment in time and travel. And people come and tell me, geez, this is our vacation. I'm like, no, well, I'm going to have a vacation where I want to go with my entire family. It's not going to be a baseball tournament on the weekend. But for a lot of people, that's the way they live their lives. Once again, the WIAA has done an excellent job of coexisting that, but the expectation created around that, it's just something that I find fascinating. And is there different ways that we can communicate that, and maybe discuss different ways that we can lessen some of that burden off of parents? And the statistic that you mentioned hasn't changed in 40 years. When I graduated from high school, it was about 1%. I remember college coaches saying only 1% of guys get scholarships, and they were talking to us, but it just seems still that we were missing somewhere.
Yeah, I think that if I had the answer to that I'd be a billionaire probably. But I think
probably more than that.
Realistically, it's about, again, going back to interscholastic athletics, right? It's about that community piece and bringing. So a lot of that starts within those sports nights that schools have, where they get all the parents together and they need to reset those expectations. Look, we understand, right, that your kid is a select baseball player or select, soccer player, but this is a community. We're building around our community and the kids that are in our school and in the school system. And so clubs have that benefit of just getting anybody from around the area and taking the best kids out of that. But sometimes you don't always have that within your club sports. And so it goes back to just kind of resetting that and having those conversations with the families and with your school community around, okay, we fully intend to win. Like, that is the goal, right? You want to win a state championship. but you have to reevaluate. You have to set those expectations and say, look, this is not club soccer. This is not a club sport, club volleyball. This is about interscholastic competition and competing with your friends and competing with your family within your community that you're a part of. And so we really try to draw that delineation between those two things. And there's success and there's failure depending on where you're at in the state, and kind of the access to those resources. And there's opportunity for kids within our rules to play with their club team and with their high school team. So that's kind of become an ability for kids to be able to do that. We don't discourage kids from participating with their club teams during the high school season, but the focus is to be on your high school team, because most of the time your club season is out of season from that. So it takes a lot of work, and it continues to take that relationship building with those club coaches in your community and getting them both to understand, okay, here's the value of interscholastic athletics and here's the value of club sports.
He is Justin Kesterson. He is here with us today on WIAA Primetime on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We are at the historic Columbia City Theater at 4916 Rainier Avenue South. And he is very graciously sitting in for Mick Hoffman, who is our weekly guest. And he is the executive director of the WIAA. And just such forthright answers from both of you guys. We always appreciate that. And so great to see you here. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the broadcast and the program, or you will catch it on many links that we will send out here on WIAA Primetime. And we also on Rainier Avenue Radio, as you know, we have a variety of different programs. Geez, if you like world music, we have it. If you like fresh juice, Daniel Bellis, we have that too. We have so many different types of radio programming and festivals that we do in the community. And of course, we always tell the story of our kids. So if you like sports, and I saw Joey Hollingsworth today. If you like politics, we have a little bit of politics and opinion on Rainier Avenue Radio too, as you guess. So please, if you enjoy community public radio here in Southeast Seattle, and really all over the world, if you want to hear about how one neighborhood looks at the world and views it, and the constituency, the community members, how we think and how we feel and how we vibe here, please go ahead and tune into Rainier Avenue Radio, suggest it to your friends, and then also make a little bit of a donation, because that helps us keep the lights on here in the building. Can you discuss, and I love what you said about behavior, because I'd never really thought about that before, Justin, but ultimately that's what sportsmanship is displaying the qualities. It's an emotional control, right? It's not only an emotional intelligence, but emotional control on the ability to promote good behavior through competition. It seems like so much these days, the feisty competitor, that sort of thing. But it really isn't about being feisty, and it really isn't about being someone who brings this angry attitude to the game. In the overall culture of high school athletics, how does good behavior contribute to a positive experience for the athletes and the spectators?
Yeah, I think kind of goes back to what I discussed earlier. Is just it's really about the behavior that comes into all of those contests. And so you can have Garfield and Beach playing in basketball, right, in a packed house, and there's nothing that says that you can't respect the opponent and have good-natured banter back and forth and conversations that are going on in the stands, and having the crowd cheer for their team, right? It's once it crosses over into the personal remarks and it gets into those things, that's where we really are trying to draw that line and basically just stand up and say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. Right? We're going to put protocols in place that stop this, because it is not what athletics in general is about, but it's really not what interscholastic athletics is all about. So we've put some programs in place to kind of draw out some of the racial comments, some of the profanity that gets used, and the way that kids are talking to each other on the field, but then also what's going on in the stands and the things that are being said out of the stands. And so we've really taken a step forward in that, in addressing that. It started last year. It's been in place fully this year. And we've seen some situations that have been addressed, good and bad. And it's really brought together communities that might be bitter rivals to address some of the things that got on. And again, I talked about it that, coming out of COVID, that there's been a mind switch and that has changed, and not for the better. People have gotten angrier. People have gotten more divisive over different things, and it spills into these contests week in and week out. And so, I mean, again, going back to education-based athletics, it's our job to teach these kids how to win and how to lose in the appropriate way. And sometimes we have to re-educate the adults in that as well, and letting them know it's okay to lose, right? You don't have to sit there and lose the game and then go after the official or go after the opposing coach or the opposing players as they're leaving, right? So we continue to have those conversations and continue to educate everybody on what is appropriate when you get to those games.
I was at a game I was telling Mick last year. It was a basketball game, and I brought my daughter, and some of the language was so intimidating and imposing. Yeah. We almost left. But the game was so intense. And I'm almost wondering, the proximity, especially in basketball. And I think that's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing about high school sports is that it's not professional sports, and the fact that you can sit right on the field and you have access to the players at a close distance. At the same time, it seems like that takes responsibility, and there should be responsibility with that as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it does take it takes the coaching staff, right? And it's hard to have those conversations and stand up to people in the crowd when, it might be one of your parents, it might be one of your other community members, to stand up and say, hey, it's enough. We're not going to act that way. We're not going to behave that way, especially when they're trying to coach. But that's where the administrators and the supervisors of the game come into that role to help step into that. But ultimately, it is the adult's job to step into that and act like an adult, right? And I'm meaning from the spectator standpoint, but sometimes coaches might have to address their parents and stuff from the stands down on the field during games if it's an away game and things like that. And so again, those are expectations that we've reset and set for our supervisors, for the schools, for the administrators, and for the coaches to address that and kind of nip it before it gets out of hand.
Fair play and ethical behavior are fundamental principles. How do coaches and administrators, and you've touched on some of these before, how do we as administrators instill these values in our student athletes, and how are they reinforced during the entire athletic year?
Yeah, I think that goes back again to your preseason meetings with your players and your parents of just like, here's what the expectation is from our program, right? Again, we're education-based athletics. We're trying to educate people on how to behave. It's not club. It's not professional sports. It's not college sports. So how you behave at Husky Stadium on Saturday when it's the Apple Cup, right, is most likely and probably and should be different than how you're going to act at your O-Day game, right, on Saturday.
You would think.
And that's the way that it I don't want to say that's the way it should be, because you should be acting the same way at both of those games. But, ultimately that comes back to you as a coach and you as an athletic director within your building, setting those expectations for your parents and your kids. I go back to when I was an athletic director, right? And you're familiar with the Highline School District, right? And so you walk in there and if you set those expectations, those kids respond. And so I've had a number of conversations this year with athletic directors about, well, okay, how do we solve this problem, or how do we solve this issue? Well, it comes back to setting the expectation of those kids. You allow them to do things in practice, they're going to emulate that and do those things in a game. You stop that in practice, they're not going to do that and have that behavior in games. You have those conversations with your parents ahead of time. Hey, we know that we have this big rivalry game coming up this week. This is how we want you to act and behave. And you do that through school assemblies with your students, right? To have those conversations with your student body that, hey, this is what this means to be an O-Day gentleman, right? This is what this means to be a Titan, right? That's what that all means. And so that's what this looks like. So you have to set those expectations and model that throughout the year as it continues to go. It can't just be for this one specific game. It has to be, this is what the expectation is during the preseason, and this is what it's going to be as we continue to go throughout the year.
30 seconds, Justin. I am a big believer, Bob Ladouceur, De La Salle High School. There should be many Kings of the Hill Many Kings, and you and I were both in the Highline School District. That's where we met. I was the head coach of the Highline Pirates. Deontay Cooper and the Highline Pirates, 10-2 this year, took a tough loss to Enumclaw this weekend, but so glad to see the Pirates turning it around and creating some excitement in Burien.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's exciting to see it. I still stay in touch with their athletic director, so I know she was really excited. She was going to be facing the same dilemma as you were had they gotten through this week, whether, you got to go support the high school team, but kind of want to support your Huskies as well. So that it's good, but it's great to see Highline rolling right now.
Congratulations, Coach Cooper. Congratulations, Lori Box, and all my friends over there. And I will be a Pirate forever. And congratulations to the Highline Pirates on a great season. We are going to go off to break. Daniel, take us away, and we will be back in a few minutes on WIAA Primetime Weekly.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Do you have an idea for a community project in your neighborhood? You could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the City of Seattle's Neighborhood Matching Fund. Grants are awarded to grassroots projects that build stronger communities, with an emphasis on projects led by impacting Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. To learn more about the Neighborhood Matching Fund or to see if your project meets the criteria, visit seattle.gov/neighborhoods/NMF.
Women Empowerment Talk Radio, your roadmap to business success. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, providing resources and sharing motivational experiences from the everyday entrepreneur. Tune in Women Empowerment Talk Radio every Sunday, 3 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Queen Bree, inviting you to come join me on Clean Greens Living. Broadcasted Tuesdays, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live right here on Rainier Avenue Radio. On Clean Greens Living, we talk farming, community, and ways to being healthy. So come join me and let's discuss ways to create a healthier you and a healthier community.
And welcome to our live studio audience for another exciting edition of Did You Know? And here we go with round one. Did You Know?
COVID vaccine is free and easy to get. You don't need insurance or an appointment to get your vaccine. Vaccines are available at many locations near you.
And now we're going to double the value. Did You Know?
The COVID-19 vaccine is always free of cost. You can visit pharmacies, community health centers, and other health providers in your neighborhood.
And now for the lightning round. Did You Know?
The Delta variant of COVID is a mutation that has health experts worried because it's twice as contagious.
Then for our finale. Did You Know?
The best way to protect yourself from the COVID Delta variant is to get fully vaccinated. Get your vaccine today.
Find out more at kingcounty.gov/vaccine. Did You Know?
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio,
your community radio station.
Welcome back to WIAA Primetime on your community radio station, our community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, at the historic Columbia City Theater. Let me say that again, the Columbia City Theater. Let me make sure I pronounce the A on the end of Columbia. 4916 Rainier Avenue South, the home of Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Juan, Cotto, touching bases with you. Justin Kesterson of the WIAA here, and we're just having a good time talking about ethics, and we're having a fun conversation about ethics. But before we go into that, December 1st, there's going to be a football game, a big football game, not the Pac-12 championship. The 3A state football game, the 3A state championship, will be on your community radio station live from Husky Stadium. The Huskies will be taking on somebody, and we're assuming it's the Oregon Ducks that night in Las Vegas. So it's going to be the Bellevue Wolverines or Yelm versus Eastside Catholic winner. So we have the Bellevue Wolverines and O'Day. They're playing Saturday at 2. We have Yelm and Eastside Catholic playing, and that game is where? That's down south, right? That's down in
it's going to be down in Art Crate.
So it's going to be at Art Crate Stadium, and that's going to be a 2 outstanding football games. Eastside Catholic and Yelm is the rematch of last year's state championship game, and if you heard about that football game, there was a bizarre play, and I'm sure you've seen it on YouTube, where the receiver from Eastside Catholic, or the defensive back, intercepted the ball, and the Yelm receiver took it right out of his hands and went down the field into the end zone, and that was the game-winning touchdown. And to think about a state championship game ending with 2 teams that close, and that was the pivotal play of the game. Boy, that's going to be a great game on Saturday night. Then on Saturday afternoon at 2 down at Memorial Stadium, 2 teams who are no strangers to semifinal and final football. O'Day fighting Irish. That was the night. That was going. I can dating myself, but I think that was the 2002 state championship, 2001 state semifinal. It was the 2011 state championship. O'Day and Bellevue have caught up so many times for some classic football games. And this by no means is going to be an exception to that. It should be a tremendous football game. Monty Kohler and obviously the Bellevue staff, it's just going to be a tremendous game. And I'm hoping that if you cannot attend those games, hey, the state championship game will be on WIAA. I'm sorry, not on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Justin, beyond winning or losing, how do coaches and administrators prioritize the character development of student athletes?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we've been talking about, which is that community relationship and building kids up to understand how to win and lose the right way, what it means to persevere through issues that come out throughout a season, right? Every championship team that comes along, or every team that, it's just really every team, but every championship team, right, faces some sort of adversity throughout the year. And it's how do you handle those things that kind of separates some of those teams as you go. And you see that at the college level, and you see that at the pro level. There's always ups and downs. And so one of the things that I think that coaches continue to do, and they do well, for the coaches that are successful, or they continue to teach those kids throughout the year, right? This is how we do things. This is what it means to be a part of this team. This is what we're going to do, or how we're going to fix our mistakes, how we're going to bounce back if we do take a loss. And so that is some of the stuff that they check into and they tap into. We see more coaches now utilizing outside resources to help teach these kids a lot of those fundamentals and a lot of those personal goal setting tactics, and some of those things that help make them more mature students, male and female, right? And to get them ready for that next step, whether that be college, whether that be straight into a job or anything like that. So that's what coaches continue to go back, and that's why they're such important teachers in the high school setting and even the middle school setting.
Can you share instances or examples of where sportsmanship played a crucial role in a game or an event, positively impacting the athletes involved in the overall atmosphere of that particular game?
Me personally, yeah. I mean, there's always there's numerous times, right?
You're a guy who's seen a lot of games.
Yeah. And so I think that there's not one that like glaringly sticks out there, other than, so last year at state track and field, we had a young lady that collapsed at the finish line, and just the girls that got around her that then got the signal for the adults to come over, right? There's the looking out for your competitor. We see it all the time when kids go down with injuries and stuff in games, whether that be helping another kid off the field, just grabbing their opponent, lifting them up when they realize that they don't need the athletic trainer at that moment, that they can help them get off. We see those things. We see kids picking each other up after plays. We see kids picking each other up at the end of a crucial loss. And so we see that all the time. And that's part of what we do. That's what makes what we do in high school athletics exceptional, because we see those kids that while the rest of their teammates are out celebrating, and if you watch these games over the next 2 weeks, right, there's going to be that one kid his teammates or her teammates are going to be celebrating at midfield because they just won a state title. And then there's going to be a kid, if you watch them, that goes over to the other team and they're picking those other kids up off the ground because they gave it their all, but they lost. And it's those moments, right, that really stick out to you. And we see that. We award sportsmanship medallions at our state tournaments for kids that we watch and we see. In wrestling, I've watched kids pick up other kids after the state championship match. And that's probably the most grueling sport that we have as far as giving what you give physically in such a short amount of time, and the win-loss component of that. Just you two in the center of a mat in the Tacoma Dome with everybody watching it, right? So those are the kind of those things that stick out the most.
The whole concept of winning at all costs. And it's really, really interesting as we discuss that. And I had several conversations when I was a head coach at Highline, as many of us on the staff in the other sports as well. We were trying to build our program, and high school sports is a little bit different, right? Because, and especially when you're at the high school level. And one of the coaches said to me, Juan, if I wanted to just have fun, I would go coach at the YMCA. And it's not that I'm trying to win the world championship or something, but this is just a little bit more than that. Mm-hmm. And then you have coaches who take this to a whole nother level. I was speaking to a football coach, and he was just ranting on me, and he was telling me, you have to hate to lose. And he was talking about how I can turn my program around. And he says, you seem to accept losing, but I get so depressed. Think about your greatest loss. What was your greatest loss? And I said, when I lost my son back in 2011, and he just shut up.
Yeah.
And his behavior and his demeanor changed, because that nothing will compare as a loss to that for me. And trying to get people to understand there's a bigger picture. There is no, if you go out and you compete, there is no losing, because you can take that performance and you can analyze it, and you can develop the kids, you can accentuate the positive, and you can bring this something better. We always had our own scoreboards. However, we know for a lot of programs and for a lot of individual coaches, that's not the case. How do we balance that out in our coaching?
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's growing ever harder, especially with today's culture and the focus on winning, because people pay their money, right? They have their time invested in things to go to the certain schools or to go to programs. They want to see that return on investment. So I think one of the things that our coaches school does a great job of is kind of putting that into perspective, right? At the end of the day, your wins and your losses add up, right? And they're going to happen one way or the other. But at the end of the day, the sun's going to come up tomorrow, right? And you're going to have a new day. And it's about what you do with that new day and how you grow from those experiences of yesterday and how you continue to grow. And so we have to continue to set that model when we go out and we talk to the athletic directors and what they are setting and the expectations that they are setting within their programs. And I think that, that probably might be the biggest challenge of tampering those expectations. And I talked about resetting goals and understanding of what is the expectation for your own kid, right? You're going through that right now with your son, of resetting that goal of, okay, what realistically is the expectation of him? Is it going and getting a college scholarship in baseball by playing select baseball or playing football at O'Day? Is it getting that scholarship, or is it about building that time in high school and having those relationships and building all of that up and learning from that while enjoying the wins and learning from those losses? So it all comes back to that personal philosophy for coaches and what it really means to them, but then also what those team setting goals are at the beginning of the year. So it's a long-winded answer to get to. It really is just on personal preference and what personal philosophy is, because you have coaches that are win at all costs. And you have other coaches like what you described, right? And what I would just say, we just got done talking about a program where Deontay Cooper has built that thing from literally the ground up. And now they're where they are now. And he's had, I'm sure, multiple chances to leave and go get a job at a bigger school that that has more resources, right?
No, it's interesting you say that, because I think that it's all sort of connected. I mean, I tried to run a discipline program. I get the kids interested. We, I was a stickler around the uniforms, and I made sure that we had a program that was respected in the community. Also came in after me, and he did the same thing, and he had a wonderful 3-year run there. A young kid came in from Oregon. He was there for a year. Then Mark Cross came and built the program at Highline. I see it's all being connected and keeping kids interested and keeping a community interested. And I think sometimes the coaches who win, they get well, I mean, it's American culture, right? I mean, to the winners, and he's a better coach than you are, and I never saw it that way.
Yeah,
I thought Osso did a fantastic job, and he kept the program going. We were able to raise money for the program. We were able to get new uniforms for the program. And Lori Box and Mary Sagal, the athletic directors, they gave us the structure that we needed to keep kids not only active and involved in the program, but to make sure that they were wearing that purple and gold of Highline all those years, and at other schools as well. And I think it's such an interesting thing, because it seems like the people who win get the notoriety, but there's plenty of coaches out there who are doing an outstanding job, and their win-loss records might not show it.
Yeah. Well, and I would put it this way, right? We have 400 plus high schools in this state, 300 and over 350 that play football. Only 6 of those schools are going to walk out next Saturday with a state championship trophy. So not everybody can win. And so what you judge winning on really is kind of, again, in the eye of the beholder. We have coaches that have been successful year upon year, right? But that doesn't mean that they have really the most successful program, because what are they producing? Whereas you could have a school that goes 0-10, but they might have this community and this support within their community and within their football program, where they're walking people out of their program that are just exceptional human beings. And I would say that that's winning as well. Right. So again, it just goes back to kind of what is in the eye of the beholder as to what that means. And so our job, again, is to continue to educate people on, it's not always about the wins and losses. The wins are nice, but it's all of that. It's everything that happens during the first 10 weeks of the season, not just what happens in week 14 when the state championship's going on. Right. So it's all of that wrapped into it. I don't know if there's a perfect answer for that. It's just, it is really what it means to each individual coach and how they're going to coach, and what their philosophy is, and what that means for that community.
Protecting our kids, because obviously we are asking our kids to perform at a very, very high level in the classroom. At least we hope they will, and we hope that's important to the parents. We hope that's important to the community. Then you have coaches who are looking to extract time to perform at a very, very high level on the athletic field. We have community responsibilities that we're asking the kids to participate in. The kids outside of school and sports, some of them are even helping raise their brothers and sisters in certain families. Others, I had a couple of kids who were working in stores on the weekend, helping their family make extra money. How much is too much for our kids?
I think that question really, again, it goes back to each individual, and there is a strain on kids, and we see that constantly, and we're seeing it more at the collegiate level and the professional level, where now people are becoming more comfortable about speaking out about their mental health. And so as an association, that's one of the things that we are taking a look at. I oversee our sports medicine advisory committee. We are going to put a mental health specialist on that committee, so that we can look at how can we get resources out to our schools to kind of address that, to help kids with their time management. And I think this is another thing from COVID that really, kids were sitting around all that time. And so time management was kind of a foreign thing to them, because they were in school at their house, right, on the computer. And so you got to retrain those kids as they've come out of that and to figure out what time management is. But there are a lot of kids that just are stressed out, and they're stretched thin, because there's this expectation of, like, okay, we got to go. You got to get up in the morning. You got to go to class. You got conditioning, or you got practice, and then you've got games. And then next thing you know, you also have additional practice for your club team or whatnot that you're going to. And so we need to be realistic about in watching our kids kind of notice as parents, like what's enough. And coaches, I've had coaches reach out and ask about mental health resources because they see it in some of their kids where they're noticing it, and it's great that they are noticing it so early. Kids will tell you when it's too much. They wear it on their face. They may not say it, but they wear it. And so as adults, we have to be intentional at paying attention to that and looking for those signs of when kids have really kind of gotten to their wits' end and are at that breaking point, to know that, hey, we need to draw that back and give them a break and give them permission. And the kids need they need to understand that it's okay to ask for that break.
He is Justin Kesterson. He is our special guest today on the weekly show that we have here Tuesdays at 3:00, WIAA Primetime Weekly. If I always stumble over the words, it is the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I have to say that slow. For so many years, I said the Washington Interscholastic Athletics Association, and I was told by Mike Colbreeze that is not correct. And he made sure that I get that acronym pronounced correctly and make sure that all the words are correct, because activities is a much broader spectrum than athletics are. And all of our kids participate in a variety of different activities. And the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association and Justin and Mick Hoffman and so many of the folks down there, they are the ones who oversee these activities and make sure, number one, there is an ethical sense of fair play, and that there is an ethical sense of making sure that we have an even playing field, so our kids are participating in a way that is equitable to all schools and all of our kids who choose to participate in sports. And hopefully this will carry on not only through the athletic field, but also into whatever future endeavors they go into. And we do this here on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. As I said a little bit earlier, we have politics, we have world music, we have political talk, and we have a variety of different programming. And hopefully, and also one of the things that we also do, we have opportunities for young people who are interested in broadcasting. And I only wish that this program had been available to me when I was younger. I would have come here and done some internships, maybe hosted a show, and fueled my passion for broadcasting. And a number of folks who are with us on Rainier Avenue Radio World just do that. So please come down if you're interested in doing something like this. There's always a way that you can contribute by making a donation. And I believe Tony's got the Venmo up there. Daniel, thank you very much for doing that. And then, of course, we do tell the story of our kids through sports. And on Saturday, I believe it's December 1st, actually, or is it going to be Friday night? Daniel, help me here. Friday night, December 1st, the WIAA 3A state championship game is going to be in Husky Stadium, 7 p.m. If you can't make it to the ball game, we will have that here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. It's going to be Yelm and Eastside Catholic playing this weekend to determine one side of the finalists, O'Day and Bellevue, two powerhouse schools, actually all four of them powerhouse schools. The rematch of last year's state championship, and then O'Day and Bellevue. Geez, I mean, they and Eastside Catholic, I mean, how many state championships have they fought for over the last 15 years? So 7 o'clock, December 1st, it's going to be a fantastic evening of football, and it's going to be extremely exciting. It's going to be on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Justin, tell us, what year is this for you at the WIAA now?
This is year 5 already.
My goodness. Tell us, going from athletic director and now working in the administration, what's been the biggest challenge, or what's been the biggest thrill for you as you've been able to move from one side of it to the other?
Yeah, I'll start with the positives. I think the biggest thrill has just been the state championship events that we get to put on, right? We do everything as far as the starting of the season and stuff, but really one of the biggest things for us is our putting on our state championships. It just got done with cross country a couple weeks ago. I was telling you earlier, and in that event, we've got over 2,000 athletes that come over to Pasco. And everybody's
2,000.
2,000, yeah. And so we have over 2,000 athletes, and there was about 6,000, a little over 6,000 in attendance there during the day, and it's every classification there. And so, I oversee wrestling, so I get to go to Matt Classic every year, and we put that on inside the Tacoma Dome. I'll be at football next week, and it'll be great because we're in one stadium again over 2 days, and so it'll be exciting to have that atmosphere again. And so those state championship events and getting to see schools come together, their communities come together, and the communities that come out and support is always the highlight, right? But it's also the interactions with the athletic directors at their convention in April, and some of those other events where we get to interact with coaches and kids. The challenges, again, have been sportsmanship, right? We continue to see a rising number of ejections. We're on pace this year to exceed last year, which is one of the highest number of ejections that amounts of ejections that we've had.
That includes all sports.
That includes all sports. And so that's continuing, to be something that we challenge, or we have a challenge of, the shortage of officials. Just some of our, continuing to see the transfers that take place in the eligibility process and going through that, and the number of eligibility cases that we have come up in each year continues to rise. So those are things that we continue to face and challenges that we continue to have. And, we're working hard to kind of solve some of those things and put things in place. And, we've got things that are in place now, protocols to address some of the behavior at games and events where we stop the game, bring the two sides together, address it. We're getting ready to pilot a program during basketball season where some officials will have body cameras, basically. Well, that's what they are. That has a forward-facing screen, and so we're going to be rolling that out in December.
What's that gonna do?
Yeah, so really, it's a deterrent. Hopefully, this is something that was piloted and brought forward to us from a group out of England. In the UK, and so they were utilizing this. They were seeing a large number of officials issues within the lower tiers of the English Football Association, and so that means soccer for a lot of you out there. And so what they saw though was that when people could see how they were acting when they were screaming at an official, it stopped them, right? Because they knew that it was being recorded, and so it was a deterrent. And so we want to pilot that, see how that goes. And so it's not geared to be punitive and to punish people. We're still working out the details of how it's going to get rolled out and what that's going to look like. But the goal is to deter people from some of the things that they are saying and doing to officials to help keep those officials around. So again, that's one of those things that we're working hand in hand with the WIAA to address kind of the behavior towards officials. But it's also going to help, hopefully, kind of cut down on some of the situations and things that we see out on the field and on the court during the season as well.
Is that something that is going to apply? You're going to basically apply that to a variety of different sports. You're going to do it to and obviously you said basketball, but what a unique way to have the person view themselves. I mean, the psychology behind that, that is such an interesting way to do it. And also, I think so many of the coaches, including myself at times, so I'm not trying to say I'm not guilty, but you get so caught up in the moment, you forget sometimes what that looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many times that we forget, right? All of us are human beings, and so the person on the other side of that, right, the official, is also a human being. And so there's times where that gets forgotten. And so what this is aimed at, again, it's not meant to be punitive. It is meant to be a deterrent so that people understand, okay, like if I cross this threshold, right, this is obviously being recorded. So we're going to see what this looks like. And so that I'm interested to see how it works. Again, it'll be statewide. So we're going to pilot it in different pockets of the state. But it'll start out with basketball, but will be utilized for soccer in the spring. It'll be utilized again in football in the fall next year. So we'll roll it out. So we're really excited to work through this as a pilot program, just to kind of see how it goes and if it works.
I was at the Eastside Catholic O'Day game earlier this year. I think that was a game that we did on Rainier Avenue Radio, and in the first quarter, the referees did bring. There was something was said on the field, and they stopped the game and they brought the teams together. And I think it was the first time that we had broadcasted the game, at least that I'd ever seen that. And I thought that was a real interesting way to sit down and kind of calm heads down and make sure that the conversation that happened pregame was it must have probably been restated to make sure that both sides understood that. And then obviously both teams got back together and they came back on the field. What are some of the other ways that you guys are looking at to reduce some of the ejections?
Yeah, I think that was really the first step is to put in place a protocol that addresses the behavior out on the field, right? If it's heard by the officials, right, the officials have the ability to eject the person if they see it and they can identify the person that said it. If it's reported to them, bring both sides together with the head coaches and say, look, here's what we have. This is what was reported to us. We need it to stop. That's not what this is about. That's not what athletics is about. You can trash talk, right?
Mhm.
And everybody can appreciate that. That's part of the game. But once you start crossing it over and you start using profanity, you start using racial slurs and stuff like that, it has no room in events, and it shouldn't be something that is normalized. It needs to be called out and it needs to be addressed to stop it, because that again is what education-based athletics is about teaching people how to be compassionate human beings and how to be serviceable civil members in the community. And so we're looking at that. We're going to continue to fine-tune that policy's in place, and our schools have been working hard at that this year. And so we're fine-tuning that. Again, I talked about the video piece of it, and we continue to just do education through our DEI committee with Stride. We have some different programs that recognize schools that have fewer ejections and things like that. So we'll continue to do that as well.
He is Justin Kesterson, and he is with the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I'm Juan Cotto of Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and we just want to say thank you so much for this conversation. I love that education-based athletics, and such a unique concept, and one that the WIAA is so beholden to. And Justin really explained so much of what they do and how they continue to strive for being excellent in this manner and making sure that we have sportsmanship and great behavior by our coaches, parents, and of course by the kids whose stories we tell in the community. Thank you so much, Daniel Ballas, for all you do for us and producing these shows. We appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next week on WIAA Primetime Weekly. For Justin Kesterson, I'm Juan Cotto. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. See you next week.